Hi, everybody. I just wanted to hop in quick before today's episode to remind you that we are doing a giveaway of 6 months of Realms Plus subscription. All you gotta do is subscribe and leave a comment. The more comments, the more chances you have to win. See our community tab for the full rules and conditions of the contest. And with that, let's get on with today's episode. Welcome back to Shifted Reality, Season 2, Episode 37. I know it's been a while. We took a little sidetrack. We were attempting to learn a little tricks with Redstone and generally help us with our overall Buildstone capabilities. And it's starting to get a little dangerous out there, so let's quickly get it to daylight before we get killed in our introduction. Now, the reason we took a little sidetrack from building up on our village base is, well, frankly, our season's starting to wind down, and I'm playing with ideas of what I'm going to be doing next season already. It's just clicking away inside my head. I do love everything we built here this year. This is an amazing village. Of course, there's aspects I wish I had planned out a bit more or maybe done a little bit differently. And that is certainly going to be things we're going to be taking away to our next episode. But overall, this entire build is really coming together. And there's one thing that always kind of bothered me. Our tiny little greenhouse slash honey farm, yeah, it kind of serves this purpose. It's been giving us the honeycomb and honey we've been needing, but it never was really a big powerhouse design, and it was cramped. You would frequently accidentally punch a bee or something and get stung up, and then you have to go and breed new bees. There were so many flaws in this. So before we finish this season, I do want to have a better bee farm, and part of why I've been doing some different redstone projects is just so I can understand how to give some more life to a bee farm and create a more impressive, or at least I hope it's going to be more impressive, for a lot more animation and life for a true Buildstone community style greenhouse. Come along, let's see what we can do here. So here we've laid out the foundation for what we're going to be doing, and we connected some areas that are just lined up with existing paths and how they were going to connect to the building. So we're going to use those as ways of establishing where entrances and exits are going to be. And then we have the overall floor. I wanted to kind of, since I'm going with greenhouse and a more of a copper design, I kind of wanted to make the floor feel like it was designed to drain a lot, any excess moisture and water. But also that extra moisture and water really has deteriorated things. So that's why we are using the different stages of oxidized copper, just to kind of try and give that impression of some of this stuff is newer and some of it is older. I just got a new idea for what to use trapdoors for. We'll see if that comes up. Anyway, but that is our general design here. But what we want to do is get some life in here. So we're going to put in some animation items first, and then we're going to design the exterior of the building around those animation items. So let's get moving with this. Now, if you've been a fan of the channel for a little while, you may remember when I created this Buildstone style water pumping station with a number of different animated bubbles and little steam release valves and water flows, and of course we have our fan, or actually that was our turbine that's powering everything. And we've definitely looks better now that everything has aged a bit, and we've gone through here with a lot of wax. I don't know what's all wax, what's not wax, but it should keep it looking nice and interesting. But I always said I wanted something that looked like we were pumping water up for a purpose. You know, this isn't just a random build. This was going to be, more or less functional. So now what we have is a waterway that comes off of the top of our water tower that carries water all the way through to our new greenhouse. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the water running effect that I would prefer, just because unfortunately once you waterlog a stair, just the water flow doesn't have that physics, but we do have the water running around. And we're going to do a neat little trick that's going to make it look like this is sprinkling water into our greenhouse. So unfortunately, because once water is waterlogged, it loses its water flow physics. So we just have a standard consistent line of water, but that's okay. We're just going to run it around here. It's going to come down all the way to this far side. And there's a little effect that we're going to throw in here that's going to make it look like these aren't a waterway, but individual sprinklers that are bringing water down to the plants of the greenhouse. And we're going to get to that next. Okay, so after a little bit of testing, I kind of came to the conclusion the copper chains really captures the look that I'm going for the best. You really get that particle effect that's just kind of spraying down a fine mist, and it dissipates into the what was going to be the greenhouse. We'll still get there. Now, having this many pistons going at once does make me concerned about lag. So our next step is just to make this more of a intermittent effect. And so that's what we're going to do next. Hold on real quick. Okay, so I don't know exactly how I'm going to make this look good. I was looking at different ways of sending a signal upwards because I want something that happens down here to trigger an effect up there. And, well, the best one I kind of came up with was the moving a slime pillar up and down. But then you need something to hide the slime pillar that the slime pillar doesn't move. And the best bet I came up with was terracotta, and, well, that's going to be a design challenge later. But for right now, you can kind of see the signal goes off and you get that water effect. Signal goes off again. There it goes again. And it looks like it's sprinkling water down onto the plants that will eventually be inside of our greenhouse. But before we can really do anything with that, we now need to get something that will intermittently set off that signal rather than needing to, flip a lever. Okay, so since this is all about trying to get Buildstone and the Copper Age golems to combine, which is a little bit tricky just because golems themselves are already somewhat animated, this is what I came up with. So we have our water sprinklers up above, but they're currently not running. However, so now our clanker picks up the one item, it puts in that chest, and then there goes the sprinklers. And they picks up another one, puts in the chest, and there goes the sprinklers again. And all this is doing is every time he puts an item into that chest, it drops it through hoppers and a dropper system that then pushes it back up into the copper chest so that there is always an item there ready for the little clanker to take out. It's a endless repeating loop, but they are the ones that are triggering it and creating it to keep the moisture going in our greenhouse. So hopefully you're able to see it there where as the sunlight came up, these bulbs all turned off. So the nighttime lights turned off, and then these trapdoors here all opened up, like they're opening up the vents to allow the temperature regulation throughout the day. We have that set up. We don't quite have enough room to set it up over here, so we're just going to lean into the kind of grungy, oxidized look that a lot of this has and say, like, well, maybe some of the stuff is broken, but there's still a few sections that are still working. And there's one more thing that I want to try and figure out how to fit in, and that is some form of automatic bee harvesting, and I'm not really sure how to do that part. Okay, so because I couldn't figure out a way to put in any kind of automated honey farm in here without taking away the room I want to use for decoration, and let's be honest, I'm already kind of pushing it with not having any glass in the ceiling, I ended up putting a farm up there. And you can actually see how I have the the light switching on and off and the trapdoors because I'm using the pale garden eye blossoms. So up there I have a little honey farm where bees are happily gathering honey from the azalea bushes. There are some dispensers that will either clip or gather into a bottle, and a couple little lays that are picking up the items and dropping them where you're hearing that bell sound. And what that does is that comes down here and drops it into a copper chest for this particular clanker. If it is a honeycomb, which we want for waxing copper, it goes into this double chest here. And otherwise, if you can't put it there, he'll walk it down and put it into this chest, which will just be a crafting table, or an autocrafter here, that is waiting for 4 bottles in order to create honey blocks, and drops the honey blocks in the bottles here. I also just noticed between this clip and the previous clip, there's apparently an update that now allows vibrant visuals to work with the actions and stuff pack. So that's kind of new and exciting. I'm probably going to take out this trapdoor here so it's not constantly flapping on me and replace it with something a little more solid, but let's just go ahead and do that right now. And yeah, I know the clankers aren't technically Buildstone since they're not redstone powered, they just kind of do their own animation. But everything else, keeping the honey blocks made and keeping honey coming in periodically, that is all redstone animated, and as well as what these guys triggering the redstone to get the pumping water sprinkles. So overall, I think this still works. As we said, we're trying to figure out ways to blend existing animations in with the Buildstone ideas, just so that we can have a more unified and creative world. And now that we have this all set up and ready to go, the only thing that's really left is for us to take down the original bee farm and start decorating the interior and exterior of this one. The biggest challenge, of course, is going to be what do I do about this terracotta that is hiding our slime pump for triggering the water feature, and how I'm going to work in that automatic bee farm up on top into the profile of the roof without it looking too weird. So let's see what kind of trickery magic I can come up with. So as I started putting in little glass walls for our flower house, I wanted to use the mix of the clear glass and the light gray stained glass, just because I thought it would give it a bit of a dirty look, like, you know, like some of the copper looks a little dingy, just like it hasn't been cleaned in a while sort of feel. But actually kind of makes it look like it, you know, has holes in the glass. I don't know. Not quite sure. I guess, and I left one of the campfires behind just as a memory of where the original bee house was. And when designing the interior, one thing I didn't want to lose was the existence of the bees that would be flying about amongst the flowers. But for some reason, like originally I had this up one higher, and when it was full of honey I tried to collect it and the bees attacked me. And then I replaced the bees and lowered it one, and then they attacked me again when I collected the honey. Why aren't they being pacified by the smoke? Is it because of the trapdoor in the way? I mean, I didn't think so, but maybe, I guess. I don't know. But for the interior, for where I was putting the flowers, I wanted a kind of a blend of approaches. So we have the decorated pots and the flower pots with different flowers and little planting things with the trapdoors lining them. This I thought was kind of nice. The two tall rose bushes with the poppy next to it. It ended up kind of putting it together, so it just makes it look like the rose bush is spilling over into the next square a little bit. Gives a little break in the otherwise rigid square definitions of most of the Minecraft things. And then we have the composter in here. We might try and get a villager up here eventually. I don't know. But I thought it was kind of nice to line it with the birch shelves so that you can have more flowers on display. And then here I put in the leaf litter just because we don't have the 3 ground flowers, just leaf litter, pink flowers, and the yellow flowers. And then right here we have some hanging vines. We put in the hanging moss vines and the hanging glowberry vines. Again, this is just kind of captured, like, maybe some of the plants have died because they haven't been maintained. And then we have more pots on this table here. Again, just playing with the different colors. And then finally, for our interior decoration, we replaced the guy carrying around back and forth a little lever with him carrying back and forth some flowers. We just went ahead and put all of our spare flowers in here just because we would want to have them. And it looks more appropriate that the guy's, sorting and tending to flowers now, as our water system still continues to sprinkle down onto them to try and keep them all watered and taken care of. So what do you think of my interior? I would, of course, appreciate any comments you might have or suggestions for improvement, but I think this is coming along quite nicely. But I need to move on to the roof. So as I started putting on some extra here, I decided the warped wood with the blue would be the best to offset the kind of bluish green of the copper. I might get some prismarine in here a little bit, but I don't actually really have a lot of that, so I don't know. We'll see. And then I had this idea of trying to do this higher sloped roof where I just kind of utilize the warped wood stairs with the warped wood shelves to kind of gradually bring it up a little bit higher till it meets in the middle. And now that I'm looking at it, I want to actually kind of bring this forward out to here, just because I want to be able to put a facade behind it. And I decided that over here, where I was more or less following the same design, and I was putting in the overall roof here, and then I was like, I need something to offset this even more. And what goes good with blue but orange? So I brought in the acacia wood here. Let's see, I like how that looks. I like the contrasting colors of that. So I'm going to bring the roof out on the other side, on that side over there, and do the same thing that I did right here. Oh, and because I didn't want anything too standoffish for covering up the terracotta, I just went ahead and put some vines over the top of it and let that grow down. And that way you can still see the patterns of the terracotta behind the vines, but it mostly diffuses the repeating pattern enough that it looks pretty good, I think, without having to extend out another full block of, material to hide it and cover it up. I did go ahead and put in some glowstone vines. We'll see how low these grow, but this should work. See, look how good that looks together. The kind of greenish blue of the copper with the trims of the warped shelves and the warped stairs, and finally the orange acacia ceiling. And then this side you still get that little bit of a peek of the bees moving about in the attic as they're, harvesting the honey for us. And I thought that this wall up here was a little too plain. I don't know, I added the mangrove to kind of make it look like a barn door entrance for like loading and unloading storage space. It's kind of weird, but it's also kind of working for me. I don't know. Let me know what you think, if there's a better option to kind of break up that orange wall right there. But now the only part of this that I still don't really care for is this little outcropping right here. See how that just kind of sticks out there? It's kind of necessary. It's what holds that bell that is making it so the lays will drop the honeycomb and the honey bottles into the hopper system that brings it down so that it can be made. Which was also another problem I ended up having. I never really used the autocrafter before now. This is like the first time I've ever tried using one. And I thought autocrafters only went if all four or all of the open slots were filled. But apparently, if you have bottles that are like, so yeah, apparently if you have bottles there, it will just think it's sugar. And since the bottles don't come along very quickly because, one, we have this guy carrying them back and forth, and two, it's just whenever it is available up at top from the bees, I kind of ended up with a bunch of sugar by accident. And so I was like, I need something. I guess I need some way of either turning it on only when I want it on, or having it so that it only fires once it's full of the 4 items. But I'm not really sure how to do that. So in the meantime, that's why there's no redstone torch under there. It's because meantime is turned off. I'll figure something out with that later. But you should be able to see her periodically. Hear the cackling. It'll add some life and some fun to the build, I think. In case you're wondering how I get up here. Now I just gotta wait till we get a thunderstorm. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. I suppose I could try catching a witch at night, but that seems hazardous to my health. You'd rather be a witch anyway, right? Well, we got rain. Are we going to get a thunderstorm? Come on, lightning. I want a witch. Or is it snowing in this area? Can you get thunder where it snows? Oh, I don't know. Is it too cold for a thunderstorm here? Okay, so I have heard some thunder. So I'm pretty sure we're in a thunderstorm, but nothing struck my lightning rod yet. I'm not sure if it's because of the snow or not. So I got a trident. We're going to see if we can't speed this process up here. Did I miss? Okay, no, that's just annoying. There we go. Now we have a witch. Excellent. Now I need to finish turning this into a widow's peak. But first, let's sleep before anything worse shows up. Oh no, okay. Whew. For a moment there, I thought she despawned. I'm like, wait, the villager should turn into a witch, should despawn, right? I shouldn't have to name tag her. Yep. Alright, so we are going to finish turning this little outcropping into a widow's peak for our witch to live in. Well, let's head up there and see how we came out. How does that look? I think I need something to work on the transition right here. Maybe just add a few more of those crimson bookshelves there and there. This side I don't think needs it. This side looks like it's pretty built in, so. Alright, I need something to light it up, and the only thing I have Get some glowberries, which I don't think I can attach to the underside of a stair. Oh, what? You disapprove of the light witch? That's not quite where I meant to put it, but. Ow! Ow. Dang it. Well, that's all I have for you today. What do you think of my new FlowerShop build that we added into our village? I think it came out quite nicely. I'll have a little detail of the widow's peak on the roof, complete with a witch in the attic. Uh, it's a subtle but little bit of life and animation, and it's one of the things just not to try and I'm trying not to forget about the actual animations that exist in the game as we look for other ways to bring more life and animation through the use of redstone. So it's a process. We're growing. We're getting there. I think this one came out pretty good overall. What do you think? How do you think we've come so far on our goal to be more life and animated with Buildstone and the existing animations within Minecraft? You think we're going well on our journey? Do you think there's anything we could have added to our little flower shop to make it better? Do let me know in the comments down below. I always appreciate it. And of course, if you've watched this far, be sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one, everybody. Bye.